My God, it's full of stars.
You might be a one-eyed jack around here, Dad. I've seen the other side of your face.
All right, it's One Eye Jacks here, and I just want to welcome all the cuckoo birds out there. You know who you are. It was a crazy week. YouTube has changed their policy. I predicted this. Oh, I don't even know which video it is. I said, oh, I bet you they'll change the metric as soon as you get close to having for them to send you a check. Which is so. I looked at the metrics, and the 4,000 viewing hours a year I met barely, but the 1,000 subscribers, I'm not even close. I'm at like 290, which is awesome. But they've raised the bar again. So I'm curious as to what happens to the $34 I have in there. I don't know what happens to that. So I got really mad, and I joined Vimeo, and I started porting videos over there. Hey, it's a free country, so you know, and I had some problems. I've had some problems with that already, but that's a different story. And then, was watching the Twin Peaks episodes, the 32 episodes, and I started compiling them into a video. And I have it's over 2 hours of material. And I sat there, and I'm looking at it, and I'm seeing the exact same things I'm finding in the Kubrick puzzle. The syringes and the vaccines and the slice of pie, which is the Azimuth equidistant map, and the Joe DiMaggio cup of coffee, Mr. Coffee. And I came to the conclusion that I don't even think I want to do Twin Peaks, because the problem with Twin Peaks is the only way you'd really be able to know if the decode is right is if you had the DVDs at home. And nobody, so few people have the Twin Peaks DVD set, and that I don't even think it would be worth doing. And on top of that, even if I did it, people would watch it and they'd never really know if the conclusions I made were right. And also, they're really fighting me on the Twin Peaks content being in a video. They really don't want that. Like I said, that was the first video that they just banned immediately. They wouldn't even let it post. So, I went into like a depression. I'm like, what the hell? I've done all this work on Twin Peaks. What the hell am I going to do? And I think what the next video, or this video, is going to be about, is more about the language itself. After doing 80 videos on this language, you start to notice there's an architecture. And I've done videos on the architecture earlier, but now I think I can actually give an overarching view of how this puzzle works. And it's even better than doing the Twin Peaks series, because I'm not trying to teach you all the alchemy that's in every movie in the world. There's not enough hours in the day. What I would like to do is teach you how to read the alchemy and how to interpret the alchemy yourself. So the next time you're watching Twin Peaks and something comes up, you'll know what it means. And I think that's way more valuable than endlessly decoding movies. And since I've had so much time vested in the Kubrick puzzle itself, I don't think I want to jump out of it right now. I think I want to continue this until I have a definitive method on, how you go about solving this puzzle and how it works. And that's what I'm going to do in this video here. And I'm going to pause this right now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. So, what we do, and a new find, and this is it's not a totally new find, but it's a new find in that it's a lot bigger than I thought it was. In the beginning of the puzzle, I talked about how, Kubrick did interviews about The Shining, and he said that Danny represented Theseus, and Jack represented the Minotaur. And then we see all the threads. I covered these in the first few videos, all the Minotaur clues about the Minotaur Productions and the Corona and all this. So we have this Minotaur myth, and I also said from the beginning that we're weaving the magic threads. What I didn't realize was there was actually a magic thread in every one of these threads. And so let's go down a little bit and take a look at some of these. So we have Group Captain Group Captain Mandrake. It's Peter Sellers in Dr. Strangelove. And it turns out Mandrake is a root of a plant, and it grows in the shape of a man, and it's used in magical ceremonies. So when we find the Jack the Ripper, and he's talking about fluoride, here's our magic fluoride clue. Then we go to Kennedy had the magic bullet. They found the bullet on the gurney. Obviously the bullet the bullet did not come from any rifle. It was delivered there. It didn't even have a scratch on it. So this is a clue that we're going to be doing the Kennedy assassination, which I've gone over in previous videos as well. And this one's really a slam dunk. There's so many clues to the Kennedy assassination, it's ridiculous. Then we have the Magic 12. This is Majestic 12. This would be Admiral Forrestal and his buddy Richard Byrd. And he was a boxer. Oh. And if you look at the pictures of James Forrestal, he's a Jimmy, by the way. You can see his nose has been broken numerous times, so he's in the boxer category. And this is how we do it. So once we're given Magic 12, we already know what the category is. Then we find James Forrestal. He's pretty much at the nucleus of Magic 12. And, he's a boxer. He jumps out of the cuckoo's nest on the 16th floor and lands on the 3rd floor roof. So that was a 13th floor flight he had. He's very close friends with Richard Byrd, and we have his Alone book. And when I realized the other day was interesting, we were given Rocky Sylvester Stallone. You can do this with his last name, still alone. So he's lone, he's one, he's alone. So anyway. He's a boxer. So Forrestal's a boxer. This is the whole Corona crash. Billy the Kid, Smokey the Bear, Pat Garrett, Wayne Brazel, Mac Brazel, Lincoln Forrest, and all the clues to the Saucer crash. You have Saucer, Swirl of Secrets from Pink Floyd, and Cup of Joe and a Saucer, which is missing. So Magic 12. We have another magic thread. We have the gin chairs in 2001: A Space Odyssey. These are the chairs that they sit on. There's gin chairs and gin couches, and a gin is a genie, which is a magical being. So we have magic again, and this ties into the sea hare rock, the crosshairs, the redheads, it goes on and on and on. I Dream of Jeannie, which was the Apollo spoof in the 70s. And she was a genie, so she was a magician. We have Dorian Harewood, Magic 8 Ball, Jungle Bunny. And of course, on this one we have, and it's not always a magic clue, but it's a game. Here it's a magic clue and it's a piece of furniture. Here it's a magic clue and it's a UFO. Here it's a bullet. So when we find, when we find Woodstock, explosive bolts, 7.62 millimeter Full Metal Jacket. Oop. We have Look magazine. And there's more than Look. There's Look magazine, Rolling Stone magazine, Playboy magazine. We have the Yankee Clipper, so we have clips. We have bores. We have a bore gauge is used to measure your rifle bore. And we have lock. You have a lock in your rifle, so we have Lockwood. We have Trigger the horse. So you start reading through these, and you have, okay, it's got a bolt, it's got a Woodstock, it's got 7.62 Full Metal Jacket, it's got a magazine, it's got a clip, it's got a bore, and this is part of our Coriolis lie, and there's no Coriolis offset needed for long distance shooting. I don't know how to spell Coriolis. Okay, Coriolis, Lockwood Trigger. There's another one I'm forgetting right now. So, it's the Magic Bullet. This is Kennedy. Magic 12, the Gin Chairs. I Dream of Ginny. We have the Magic Smoky Colored Bear Rug. This is the bear rug that's seen in the movie The Shining, and it's positioned right in front of the raging fire. And we notice there's no screen on the overlook fireplace. So, if you know anything about bear rugs and fireplaces, you would never want to put a bear rug right in front of a fireplace without a screen on it. So it's a clue that, the fire clue, once again, we have the Collins axe, and Danny wants to play with his fire truck, and the overlook burns down, and you have the Burns twins, and you have the real Overlook Hotel in Laurel Canyon burns down. So he gives you the Magic Smoky Colored Bear Rug. So when I found it, I initially said, oh, we're looking for Smokey the Bear. But I had aside from that giant leap, I had nothing else to go on. And then, after I looked at Smokey the Bear, I realized he was from Corona. This is another Corona, New Mexico clue. And also, Smokey Jr. is also from New Mexico, Corona Forest, New Mexico. So this is the little bear, big bear painting we see in Danny's room. And why is this bear rug magic? Because it disappears. Anything that disappears, moves, or changes in Kubrick's movie it becomes magic. So we have the magic chairs in the scene where Jack is in the Colorado lounge. He's had his dream. He wakes up. Wendy comes up to talk to him, and the chairs are disappearing and moving. We have Stuart Ullman and his magic window in his office. So he has this impossible window that can't exist because his office is in the center of the hotel, and yet we see the magic window, and then later on in the movie we see Jack and Wendy in that room, and we see frost on the window and everything. So it's an impossible magic window. And so this is a clue that we need to look at theaters, because he has the theater curtains framing his window. And we have Corona, Kennedy, Apollo, Lincoln, Ford Theater, so there's a bunch of theaters in this clue. Then we have the magic twin bronze eagles we see in Ullman's office, and we see both of them numerous times throughout the movie. And then during Jack's interview, the one behind Ullman's head disappears. And then later on in the movie, when Jack goes to disable the radio, we notice the other bronze eagle disappears. So if they're disappearing right in front of you, they're magic. We have the magic tiger game that's seen in Danny's room. It's not one tiger game. It's actually two different tiger games, and the poster that it's made on, where it says Tiger, is in two different locations on the poster. So clearly, it's not just a continuity error. It's somebody went in and took the Tiger game that was in that position, removed it, and then replaced it with a different one that's almost identical, but it is different enough that if you look at it carefully, you can tell it's two different Tiger games. So it's doubled. So once again, we're using doubling, mirroring palindromes. And this is part of all the tigers and the cats clue. The cat lady, and you have the leopard with the reflected front screen projection eyes, and you have Sylvester, William Sylvester, and Sylvester Stallone. They're both Looney Tunes cats. And you have Tom Cruise. Tom is a male cat, and a queen is a female cat. So when you find queens in the puzzle, they are automatically cats. When you find Toms in the puzzle, they're automatically cats. And Tom Cruise flies the Tomcat in Top Gun. It's ridiculous. And he plays Maverick, which is a missile. So he flies a Tomcat and he shoots the Maverick. It's so the Magic Tony the Tiger cereal. Once again, we have a magic cereal box now, and this is one of the clues that are looking for greats, grands. It's the Grand Overlook Lodge. It's the 1,000-yard stare. It's the Millennium Falcon. It's the greats. It's Jackie Gleason, the great one, the king of the castle. And once again, we're tying into predatory animals. It's a meat-eating tiger. We have the magic Dopey sticker that's on Danny's door. This is the 6 out of 7 dwarves are missing, and then the Dopey sticker itself actually goes missing, so that makes 7 out of 7 are missing. And this is a key to Disney and Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. So we have another color here. We have white, and with Disney's Magic Kingdom, we have the magic unicorn in Blade Runner. It's a mythical magical horse, and this one's made out of folded hand. It's a handmade, hand-folded magic unicorn. We had Neptune. Several references to Neptune and his trident. We have Trident Crater, which I keep forgetting to mention. We have Woody Strode and his trident. We have the Trident Missile, which I keep getting to put in there as well. I'm going to have to add that in after I do this. So we have Trident, and so we're being pointed to Neptune. And it turns out Neptune, mythologically, is the father of all horses. So the most famous horse of all, when you're dealing with Neptune, and he is the father of horses, but even so, the most famous horse of all would be Pegasus. And Pegasus is also a time travel program. So I think the next video I'm going to do is on this little entry right here, time travel program. In the puzzle so far, we have Pegasus, we have the Indians, so we have Montauk, we have Smokey and the Bandit, so we have the Firebird, which has the phoenix on the hood. And he does the you're so cute, I want to, or I'm going to call you Hopper because I want to jump you. So there's a million clues in Smoking the Bandit, including Jackie Gleason plays a cracker in it, and he plays Smokey Bear. So we have a bear. He's king of the castle, and so we have the Phoenix, which is the bird that's on the hood of the DeLorean, which is designed by Johnny DeLorean. Or, I'm sorry, the Trans Am Firebird, which is designed by Johnny DeLorean. And we have Jerry Reed. He plays Snowman. So we have Snowman again. So Pegasus, Montauk, Phoenix, and of course the last one, Cougar won't leave any of them out. He's going to give you all of them, is Rainbow. So you have, Swing under the Nazis, as Kubrick Kubrick's unmade movie, one of the categories we use to solve this. And then we have, Under the Rainbow and Over the Rainbow. And it's a doublet clue because Under the Rainbow was a movie with lots of little people in it. And I don't know, it was Over the Rainbow. And then, of course, you have The Yellow Brick Road and The Ruby Slippers and Judy Garland, which is a shiny, tinsely garland is shiny. Over the Rainbow. So this is, if you had one of these, it'd be like, yeah, well, that's neat, but I don't know. That's, I can't do it. Then if you had two of these, you go, wow, you got two of them. That's, Pegasus and Montauk, not a common, those are pretty uncommon to be together. Then you have the Phoenix that's on the hood of Smokey and the Bandit, and then you have Rainbow and Eyes Wide Shut. So, like I said, the next video I'm going to do is concerning time travel because it's getting ridiculous now how many clues there are. And then you have the 237 times time is mentioned in his movie altogether. We take all his movies together and you tally up how many times he says time. It's 237. None of these are accidents. And you have the Longines chronoscope, you have the Timex with a white metal wristlet, you got the You Sold Me a Crummy Watch, you got the grandfather clock, you got the atomic clock, you've got the cuckoo clock, you've got stopwatch, the horse. He's repeating these categories. If there's a category of 237 times he uses the word time, there's going to be a category of clocks and watches and timepieces. So let's get off that one. So now the next magic thread. So we have the magic mirrored lake painting. So it turns out in flat earth, mirrored lakes and mirrored bodies of water, mirrored salt flats, the Donner's Cross, the Great Salt Flat. Oh, it's another great, I always say there's great, and I always forget the great salt flats. Or with the Donner's, Cross, the Millennium Falcon. You have a 1,000-yard stare. You have the Grand Overlook. You have the Garand rifle. You have the Grand piano Scatman plays with his smoking gun pipe and his snow cap on. You've got Scatman's grandmother shined. Anyway, I've made lists of these before. And so they're just repeating patterns over and over and over and over. So when you find a magic thread, you know what the category is. Now you need to find the rest of the thread. And that's how it works. So let's go, where was I? So magic mirror lane. So this is the impossible flat mirror surface we see on lakes and flat bodies of water and salt flats. Jack lays on the bags of salt in the story room. So it's another flat clue. And like the flat tire, Kubrick's pictorial he does for Look magazine, the flat tire. And then Tim Carey gets the flat tire, and then Humbert gets the blowout and gets a flat tire. He's repeating this flat tire, the Adams Probe is the flattest automobile ever made, lowest and flattest automobile ever made. And that's the Adams Probe 15, by the way, not the 16. The 15 was the lowest. They only made 3 of these, and then they made the 16, which wasn't the lowest anymore. Danny takes magic rides on his trike. He'll be riding his trike and he'll turn a turn, and all of a sudden he's on a different floor of the hotel. So this is the bicycle clues, and so you're going to have the unicycle, the bicycle made for 2. You're going to have the penny farthing. You're going to, it goes on, and of course, the daisy, a flower, and a BB gun that Crazy Earl has. So Crazy Earl carries a Daisy Red Ryder BB gun in Vietnam. That's what he's using. And So it's our penny farthing clue that it's a bicycle and we're going downhill and we're gaining speed. I saw an interview with Adam Baldwin, and he was talking about his experiences with Kubrick. And apparently, he had complained one time that they were doing like 10 takes or something, and Adam said, "Oh, gee," or something, at the end of the take. And Kubrick, took him aside and he said, "Adam, you just don't have any patience." And I I have to give Kubrick credit for that. To have the patience to do this kind of work and never get credit for it for your entire career, and to be doing these multifaceted puzzles inside your movies, and to never ever let on what's going on. And also the interview, Christiana Kubrick, and she talks about she would talk to Stoney, or she would people would talk to Stanley, and then he'd come home for dinner or whatever, and she said, "Well, how are things go today, honey?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm still fooling them." So he throughout his entire career he had to keep his mouth shut and keep perfect silent on this little puzzle. So he really did have patience. So when he tells Adam Baldwin, Adam, you just don't have any patience, he was talking from a position of experience on that one. We have Magic Johnson. So this is we have a ball in here, and we have a star. He's a basketball star, and he's the poster boy for AIDS. Scatman is magic. He shines. He can see what's going on at the Overlook from Florida in his magic mirrored room. I'm not putting every magic thread on here, but I'm going to put quite a few of them so you get an idea. So you have Alan Bean. So if we have Alan Bean and we have a category of all things Johnny, all things Jack, you're gonna find Jack and the Beanstalk. And this is another category. This is going to sound absolutely just, if you told me this 6 months ago, I would have said you're crazy. But this is a new category. It's something I've been not researching in related to Kubrick's puzzle, but I had been researching it before. And you're going to have to do your own, I'm crazy, so you're going to have to do your own work on this one. But if you do enough work looking at all the monolithic construction around the world, you realize that there was a much more advanced race living on the surface of the planet in antiquity, probably 11 to 13,000 years ago. And you read all the school books, and they never mention that some of these people were huge. Some of them were giants. It's only until much later on when you realize that almost all of the really juicy historical things have been edited out of the school books. So I started looking at the Anunnaki and the Coneheads and Puma Punku, and there's a guy, I'll put his name, I think it's Breen, Brein, Forrester, I think it's Forrester. Brian Forrest, I think it's Brian Forrester. Anyway, he does a million videos, and he actually goes to these sites, and I highly recommend watching every video you can find from him, because you end up going to so many places around the world that likely you would never have the ability to do, and you probably wouldn't have enough money or time to do it, even if you wanted to do it. So you get to see all this stuff, and some of these sites Brian has been to 60, 70 times. So he knows, he's met the locals, he's got the local flavor, he's got like the local shamans. He'll interview them and talk to them, and universally you come to the conclusion that there were people that existed that were much larger than the typical man now. And so when you look at Billy McNeil's photograph, All Things Jack Nicholson, you'll notice there's a little Jack and the Beanstalk, fee fi fo fum bucket in the middle of the picture. And I had no idea what the hell that was 6 months ago, and now I know what it means. So another clue to this is we have the giant leap. One small step, one giant leap. So it's not one clue. So you come down and you go, okay, we have pyramids in the puzzle, we have cone heads in the puzzle, We have the coronal suture on the cone heads, the single coronal suture. We have, and the coronal suture comes from the word corona, which is the crown. So these people, it was called the coronal suture because these people wore the crowns. They were the people of renown. If you want to call them the Anunnaki, if you want to call them giants, if you want to call them the Titans, the Olympians, whatever, it doesn't really matter. But the important thing to realize here is they were not really human. They were humanoid, but they were not really human. They were a different race, and they did live on the surface in antiquity, and they did make impossible cyclopean, polygonal, monolithic construction that still can't be explained today. And when you watch enough of these shows by Breen Forrester, you realize that this type of this construction technique is seen worldwide. They want you to think that it only was in Pumapunku and the pyramids, and guess what? It's everywhere. It's even on Easter Island. So there's clearly a cross-pollination of technology. There's clearly a cross-pollination of very high technology. I mean, some of these stones are 4, 5, 6 feet wide. 1,000 tons is not impossible. They found stones in Russia now. They have one now. The guy says it's over 3,000 tons. So, there are gantry cranes that could probably lift that, but you're talking about something it's a huge steel structure. It's built specifically for lifting pallets off ships is probably what it does. But to move a 3,000 ton stone onto the top of a mountain on the edge of a sheer cliff, no one can explain how these things were done. And so, like I said, consider me crazy, but at the same time, start doing some research. Start watching this gentleman's videos. He'll actually show you the sites themselves with no bullshit. So, Jack and the Beanstalk is a story about cannibalism. So we have another. Because universally, when when you go into the mythology, you find a lot of times that the giants, throughout history, were cannibals. They were eating people, and they were feared. You didn't want to go near the cannibals because they would eat you. And really, if you were 17 feet tall and you were hungry, who would stop you? So we have Jack and the Beanstalk and the magic beans, and we have Alan Bean of Apollo. Of course, the main magic threat is we have Theseus, the Minotaur, the Princess Ariadne, and her royal corona, which is now the corona star system. Star system. In Full Metal Jacket, there's a magic show at 0930 on Christmas, so it's another holiday clue. And a birthday clue. It's Jesus' birthday, so it's a birthday clue. And this is how he imparts how you're solving this puzzle. He gives you the 4th of July is the date for the Overlook Ball. So the 4th of July is a holiday and a birthday. It's the birthday of your country. And so that's what he's doing. And another good way to look at it is November 22nd, 1963 is Kennedy's death day, and Dr. Strangelove birthday. So this is how we play ping pong. We're playing Roman ping pong. And there's a lot more. I've covered this thread before, the November 22nd thread. It's ridiculous. There's so many people in the puzzle that are this date, including Jamie Lee Curtis. Her first movie is Halloween, the first day at the Overlook, and she's Scream Queen. So then we have the Magic Mushroom Cloud films from Laurel Canyon. This is another subject I've covered before, and I'm more sure now than I was before. Atomic weapons are not real weapons. Atomic weapons are an unbelievably lucrative fear porn weapon. the U.S. spends trillions a year to maintain the ICBMs and nuclear weapons that we have. And to sit back and realize that they're not even real weapons is pretty funny, you know. So Kubrick says, you know, how I learned to stop worrying and love the bomb. I think the reason he says that is because the atomic bomb is not a real weapon. It's as real as it is in your mind. Like the moon missions aren't real, but they're real if you believe them. So you know, it's sort of like how Carl Jung says that they control, you know, they're controlling you with your archetypes. They're telling you that, you know, Neil Armstrong is the first man on the moon and blah 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 blah, and you get wrapped up in that, believing that, oh, we really did land on the moon, and we, you know, we really do have atomic weapons and really do that and this and that and the other thing. And you realize that, you know, this is all public relations, and the amount of money they make off this, it makes the moon missions look like a joke. If you add up the money for maintenance on the ICBM nuclear weapons for this country, I don't even know what it would be. From the time they had nuclear weapons to today, you know, you could probably put every person on the planet through Harvard with the amount of money they spent on that. So, you know, and they get the bull bomb. Slim rides the bull bomb. Slim in real life was a matador. He slayed bulls. So he's the bull slayer, riding the bull bomb, and the magic mushroom crowd. All the atomic blast films were developed at Laurel Canyon Lookout Labs. The same place. This is where they have the Alice in Wonderland school. So if you were working at Lookout Labs, your kids went to the Wonderland school, you know, and I'm sure their heads were filled with all kinds of neat facts there. You know, so then we we skip out of Kubrick and we go to Star Wars, and you have the magic force. You know, use the Force, Luke. It's the magic force, and so this would be a giant leap into Star Wars. And you got Johnny Walker, Spacewalker, Moonwalker, Skywalker, Imperial Walker, Woody Strode into the room, Laurie Strode into the room. So Tom Cruise, you can cruise in a ship, you can walk, you can fly, you can flew. And you go Walker Air Force Base. So all these, and I've covered these a million times. You should probably know these by heart if you're at this point. You know, so the walk, jump, run, Blade Runner, Star Trek. You know, there's another one, Star Trek. You can trek through the woods if you want. All right, what else we got here? Oh, here they all are. Timberland. You know, these boots are made for walking. Christopher Walken. There's a category of Christophers too I found today, and I haven't even listed them yet. And of course, you know, Columbus is going to be one of them, and Christopher Walken is definitely going to be one of them. So here's a good one. So you got Christopher Walken. We need more cowbell. He's in that. He's in that little thing with Will Ferrell, and so it's Blue Oyster Cult, and he's like, we need more cowbell. So you got cowbell, bells is a category, and you got walking. Walking is a category. It's pretty clever. And this, you know, the bells would be the Liberty Bell and the Bell video phone and the Bell video phone call to the moon from Tricky Dick, and the Bell video phone that Squirt Vivian Kubrick gets in 2001: A Space Odyssey, and yada yada yada. So this is how we make the giant leaps. You know, with this part here is how we're jumping. So we find our magic thread. We go back up here. Okay, you got a magic thread in Theseus and the Princess. Okay, you got it. And then we're using these leaps and jumps and hops and skips and the bunny hops to jump out of our puzzle into another movie sometimes. Like we have Jack Elam, the one-eyed drunk. Well, we jump out of a Kubrick movie, we find Jack Elam in Cannonball Run. So it's got run in it, and it's got ball in it, and it's got cannon, which would be Coriolis ballistics, and the lack of Coriolis offset in ballistics. So it just fits too many things. You know, you realize and his real name is Billy Scott Elam. Oh, An elam is a palindrome for male. So a jack is a male rabbit, and he's got one eye. I mean, it just gets ridiculous. Once you know all the metrics, he's a one-eyed jack. He's got a syringe in his hand. He's squirting Burt Reynolds. Burt Reynolds is a new category I haven't covered too. Rugs. So when you think of the most famous Hollywood actors, and you think of which ones had rugs on, Burt Reynolds is right in. Burt Reynolds is right near the top. I mean, everyone knows he had a rug. I think number two, if Burt is number one, then number two is going to be William Shatner because we all know he's got. I mean, the one which one was the movie he did about the Genesis device, which is another clue into the Genesis thing. But he did the movie Star Trek or Star Wars Star Trek, and he did the feature length movie with the Genesis device. And in that movie, he is wearing the most ridiculous rug. I mean, if you're on the net now, go to Google and Google some pictures of Shatner in that movie, and you're gonna laugh. But so in Smokey the Bear, you have Burt Reynolds, and he's a playboy or playgirl bunny, and his name is Band One, and his buddy is Snowman, and he tells her, "I'm gonna call you Froggy." I think it's Froggy because I want to jump you. And throughout the whole movie, he's jumping the freaking Trans Am over bridges, and it's ridiculous. Another one I wanted to mention that I found the other day too was in the Bond movie, Man with the Golden Gun. James Bond steals a AMC Hornet, orange Hornet, and he jumps over a river with it, and he does a corkscrew as he jumps the river. So I did some investigation on it, and it turns out that jump was the first jump they ever did that was simulated on a computer before they did it. So it seems to me there is a category of computer firsts, like Hal was the first computer to sing Daisy Daisy. In the Philadelphia experiment, we have the talking alarm clock that David Paré plays with. In The Thing, we have the talking chess computer that Mouseketeer Kurt Russell plays with as he drinks Jim Beam Miapscotty. So that's how it works. We find the magic threads, and with the magic carpets. These are all the nested cubes, the handmade, the carpeting in the movie The Shining. They talk about it and they tell you that, oh yeah, we didn't buy that from somewhere. We made that. So when you see the it's the 2D, 3D nested cube carpeting, and that was handmade. So, and of course the carpets move, and we're talking about Indian carpets here, an Indian tapestry. We have the flat Earth Indian cosmogony tapestry that Jack bounces the tennis ball off of in the Colorado Lounge. And if you watch that clip very carefully, there's a dome. It's upside the tapestry is upside down, but there's a curved dome that represents the dome over us. And when he throws the tennis ball, it hits right where the edge of the dome is every time he throws it. So I think that was probably one of those scenes that Jack Nicholson complained he had to throw the tennis ball for like a day and a half to get the scene. And there's another scene where he throws the tennis ball and he ends up hitting the 7 diamond carpet at the end of the hallway. So I don't know how many times he had to throw that to make that shot, because it's like all the way down the whole length of the hotel. And then we have the Black Magic Marker in Pulp Fiction. So magic threads. If you watch the movie and something comes up and like, oh, Joe, get the magic bubble or whatever it is, you got to take note, because magic is, at least in Kubrick's movies, it's being used, and now we see it in Pulp Fiction, it's being used, and so that's interesting. And then we have the Beatles, the Magical Mystery Tour, Sons of Magicians, the 4 or 5 Beatle. It's a club band, anyone can join. And Billy Shears, Buffalo Bill, Willie and the Pepper Pots, Willie Shears, Apollo C. Vermouth, Then there's Percy Thrillington too, which is an anagram, but I'm not going to get into that. And you have the Magic Beetle. Jack drives the VW Beetle, and it carries an impossible amount of luggage. He points to Ullman asks him, "Where's your luggage?" He goes, "Oh, it's right there." And he points to if you had a Winnebago, you wouldn't have been able to fit it in, and yet that's the luggage he brings to the Overlook, which is a clue to the whole Apollo. They brought golf clubs and the kitchen sink and a fucking a dune buggy, whatever the hell they wanted. When they got to the moon, it was like a fucking GI Joe, set. You just popped open the box and okay, let's take out the moon rover and we'll grab the stuff and we'll go golfing. It's a joke. So he gives you this impossible amount of luggage, and of course in the book, the car had a two-wheel trailer, just like Apollo's two-wheel wagon, drawn by horses. All right, I'm going to end. This is going to be a two-part series too, because I can't get through all in one. And it's already at 40 minutes. It's just too long. There's a couple more things I want to cover before I end, though. And let me see where they are. So Hervé's an artist in real life. These are some Billy McNeil pictures. So, everything he does is alchemical. So, here's another Billy McNeil. And you get the wedding rings here, and he's Cupid, and he's original Mouseketeer with a bow. That one's interesting. It's the same guy. Oh man, the media. Here's another Billy McNeil. So you got Ron Howard, Opie Taylor, the redhead with his Golden Globes, Aunt B, Don Knotts. This is a day. All right, this is what I wanted to. This is the main reason I wanted to do a few more minutes here. So this is a David Lynch creation here, and we can see that he's using the Frank Lloyd Wright Mayan blocks. Then we hop on or run on over to Blade Runner, and we see he's actually made. This is not really the Ennis house in this scene, but he's copied the asymmetric mirrored Mayan blocks from Frank Lloyd Wright. Here we see them again in his kitchen. So this is a direct copy from the famous Frank Lloyd Wright Ennis house. So here's a picture of the Ennis house. It's very Mayan looking. I don't really think it's, people say it's beautiful. I think it's the ugliest thing since, but anyway, it's just square blocks and they're all mirrored is the key. So this is one of the first things I looked at in the puzzle, and I was like, well, he's using mirrored blocks, and he's using threads, but each thread is composed of a block of the same components, and he's tying them together with connector words. So this is a kind of how he's giving you an allegory to the construction technique of the puzzle. Lots of little threads, but each one has mirrored symmetry with something in the puzzle. There are always pairs, doublets, triplets, quadruplets, and they're mirrored. And they're organized symmetrically. And these blocks were used by Frank Lloyd Wright, but sometimes the blocks are in a Ridley Scott movie, and they're being, here's a movie with Eddie Murphy in it, and what do we see here? The same exact mirrored Mayan block. I don't know if this is really the Ennis house. I'll have to find out. I'm not even sure what movie this is, but it's 48 Hours. I don't know. Now we get into the bizarro category. Here's Twin Peaks, and in the movie, there's shots of the TV playing, and we see. Well, I'll get a better one in a minute, but this is Frank Lloyd Wright hallway in the Ennis house that she's walking through. And here's a better shot of it. So this is Lucy in Twin Peaks is watching television, and we see this soap opera on television. And in the background, we see the same exact mirrored Mayan blocks from Frank Lloyd Wright. So that's really bizarre. It's tying The Shining together, because remember, The Shining red bathroom is based on the Arizona Biltmore, which uses these blocks. So here's the Ennis house again. It's actually was falling apart a couple of years ago. The concrete that he made the blocks out of wasn't that good, and parts of it were crumbling. And this is what I'm saying. Maybe call me call me crazy, but that is the most hideous thing I've ever seen in my life. It's like disgusting. It looks like a prison. But one of the key points to take away from this, though, is he bases the blocks on a Mayan temple in Uxala, Mexico. And the temple itself has blocks very much like this in it, and it uses this style kind of. So there's another picture of the blocks again. This is Twin Peaks on the television. In other words, another thing I want to mention is if we see television playing on a TV in Kubrick movies, you really need to take a look at it because he's hiding stuff in all of them. And same thing with David Lynch movies. Look at what's playing on the TV. And here is the Biltmore. Now, the Biltmore was made using Frank Lloyd Wright's blocks, but the actual design of the hotel is not Frank Lloyd Wright. So the blocks are Frank Lloyd Wright, but the hotel is not his. So other directors may be using these asymmetric mirrored blocks in their movies, like Ridley Scott and Stanley Kubrick and Woody Allen and Spike Lee and Johnny Carpenter, yada yada yada. So this is my interpretation of it. Is other directors may be using these blocks, and they're going to be using the same language. And you can see it says Biltmore right here, Biltmore. So this was JFK's stomping ground. He would hang out here, the Biltmore, Arizona, a very ritzy place. This is a ring gauge. If you're going to get married, you need to get a ring. You go to the jewelry store and they have a ring gauge. And here's the Frank Lloyd Wright Mayan blocks interior. These homes were not budget homes. I mean, the metal work in this door, that's an expensive door. I don't know what it costs to make, but, and then you can see that it has this repeating square Frank Lloyd Wright style that he uses everywhere. And once again, they're asymmetric. It's symmetric in a diagonal. It's not symmetric vertically or horizontally. It's symmetrically diagonally. So this is the same thing we see in Blade Runner. This is supposedly his apartment, is the Ennis house. So then we jump out of the Ennis house, we go to the Biltmore. This is where the red bathroom is supposedly based off the bathroom in the Arizona Biltmore. And we see right off the bat, we see these, now we see, these are a little different kind of block. They're still Frank Lloyd Wright blocks, but they're mirrored now. They're symmetrically, horizontally now. And we can see a close-up of these blocks. And you can see how clever they were, how they mirrored them and cut them in different shapes and stuff to make it into a design. But this is not a Frank Lloyd Wright hotel, but you can see that the repeating mirrored, so this one connects to this one, connects to this one. Everything connects together like Kubrick's puzzle. And this block is the same as this block, is the same as this block. So they all have hidden symmetry. And I think this is the Ennis house again. Yeah, this is the Ennis house. And you can see it's not, it doesn't really look that good anymore. The concrete's falling apart. This is a Billy McNeil picture. I suggest you go to his site. So we had a category of dicks and penises and Johns and Johnsons and Peters and Mineshaft and Peters projection and all these, a thread of Mineshaft. And we had the Abe Lincoln category already. The Lincoln Penny, and the day Lincoln died was April 15th, Jackie Robinson Day, the same day the Titanic sinks, which is Cheryl Lee's birthday. And then I saw this from Billy McNeil, I'm like, Mary Todd's diary reveals her fondness for the old Lincoln log. So I never even thought of Lincoln log as another slang term for your penis, but sure enough, it fits. So that was interesting. And I think that's it. The rest of them are just the flat tire from Kubrick's Pictorial, the flat tire from Kubrick's The Killing with Tim Carey. It's the hardest part's getting out of the vehicle. He's on the Beatles album. This is another pictorial from Kubrick for Look magazine. This is Rosemary Williams. She gets a flat tire. And of course, Rosemary Williams doesn't change her own tire. She's got a guy. And we got the tattoo of Flea, who plays Needles. That's pretty clever. Yeah, the flight pass. I don't know if you guys have looked at this stuff yet. We got a screw gauge, bolt gauge. We've got train gauges. So we've got snow tracks and horse and train. There's a million trains are measured in gauges. So once again, in Twin Peaks, there's a scene where they have the toy trains going around in a circle. So anything with it that's measured in a gauge, they're going to give you. And the explosive bolts, fire the explosive bolts. Let's blow the doors of perceptions open. There's a shotgun bore gauge. You know, it'll tell you 10, 12, 16, 20, 28. And down here you have the millimeters. And so this would be 7.65. That's an odd one. Gustav Hasford. So this is the Smokey the Bear hat. So we have the Smokey colored bear rug that's magic, that disappears in the movie. And then he has the Smokey the Bear hat. And then when they do the Abigail Mead, I Want to Be Your Drill Instructor, you know, they mention the Smokey the Bear hat. And that's it, guys. Have a great night. And I apologize for not doing the Twin Peaks thing, but I just don't think it's going to have the audience this does. And it's going to be a lot, you know, I'm going to do it eventually, but it's going to take me months because there's so much stuff in it. And it's so much different than, it's a totally different alchemical matrix than Kubrick. It's using the same language, but it's, you know, it's Lynch's interpretation of it. And shout out to all the cuckoo birds out there. Thanks for watching, guys. And I'm going to try to make it to 1,000. Screw YouTube. I will make it, damn it. You know, like Eugene Krantz said, failure is not an option. So have a great night, guys. Peace and love. Carpe diem.
This way tomorrow afternoon, of course, because the little TV camera inside the command module won't be with them.
Continuous reel is the one that was referred to in Apollo 10 as Sidewinder. Good name, too. Sidewinder Diamondback. Looks like a couple of snakes down there in the lake bed.